Welcome everyone. We're going to make it start, if that's all right. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming along, and yeah, some people finding the place and being here for the first time. My name's Richard. I'll be talking for about 45 minutes, and this is me kind of sharing a story really. My day job is as a neuropsychologist, so I'm used to working with brains, particularly people who've had very severe brain injuries after car accidents or bicycle accidents. And yeah, I've come to see that job now as helping people to regenerate lives after brain injury, when everything just collapses and you've got to restart again and work with families. It's complex, it's messy. I love that work. But this talk is sort of how I realised that I had more responsibility than just doing my day job. And I want to start by being very grateful. I keep finding more and more people all the time who are doing amazing work everywhere. It's often that we don't know those people, even people very close to us. And yeah, it's just amazing, you know, through years and decades, people have been doing such amazing work. And what I want to talk about is just my way that I found to express myself once I realised I had, you know, responsibility. I was aware of the need to do something, and yeah, what I've enjoyed doing. And for me, that's come about through doing a lot of walking. I love to get out and walk. Every day I walk along the Thames, and just noticing, you know, all the life that is there that I didn't really notice that much beforehand. I used to do a lot of running, cycling. It was just a backdrop. Now I really appreciate where I live, the place that we are in. Even underneath my feet in this photo there, just appreciating the chalk. It was only recently I realised that the word Chilterns, that comes from the Saxon word chilt, which means chalk. I grew up in the Chilterns. I didn't know this until very recently. And this is where I grew up. Yeah, I grew up in the Chilterns, in a small village, followed the Chilterns along, called Wendover. My happiest times growing up were getting on my mountain bike, going up into the woods, up to the highest point near me, a place called Coombe Hill, where I could just see for miles all around the Aylesbury Vale. And that was my happiest time, just being outside in the woods. But then I've also had lots of times where I felt I didn't really belong. I didn't know my place, where I was. Felt sometimes I didn't fit in with, you know, the work where I was, the groups I was in sometimes. I just, you know, living places as well. I remember living in South London for, nothing against South London, so yeah. Yeah. But I lived in a 4-storey block of flats, just lived there for a year, where I had to do an assistant psychologist job to get onto training, and I hated that job anyway. It was a really horrible department, but I lived in this 4-storey block of flats. And from the day we moved all our stuff up to the top floor of these flats, we never saw any of our neighbours. It was the weirdest experience ever, where you could open the front door, go in, not see it on the way up, or you'd come out of your door at the top. You'd hear other people around, but by the time you came down, everyone had disappeared. So that was just a really weird experience. Absolutely. And I've come to find that a lot of people who do sort of really care about the work they do often have experienced a feeling of not belonging at times in their life. But then I started to root again. For me, actually, settling in Reading was the start of that. I'd moved around a lot for my studies, lots of different places, short periods and every time, but moving to Reading was the first time I started to feel as though I was connecting again. And that really started with a walk along the River Thames. I was in a neuropsychology department in the NHS, and luckily for me, several years beforehand, the head of the department, the department used to have a Christmas presentation session where everyone would come into a room, just watch presentations. You know, that was the Christmas party. That was very exciting. But luckily, this head of department, before I arrived, said, "Why are we doing this? Why don't we just go for a walk?" And so then that started the Christmas tradition of walking somewhere, and it was often along the Thames. And so this was a chance, you know, where I wouldn't really see people that much throughout the whole year, people busy, but we could really connect on this walk. And it was on one of these walks that someone said to me, "You need to check out acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT." And I'd never heard of it before. But I didn't do anything about it then. It was just lodged in my brain because I was so busy. There wasn't enough funding to do any training. So it was only when I left the NHS that I still had this curiosity, and I did some training in it. And acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, has this very weird hexaflex. Because it is about developing and practicing different skills. You probably won't be able to see it from the distance, but at the heart of it is developing something called psychological flexibility, which is a bit like the person in the image, where you are noticing what is going on around you. So I'm standing up here now talking to a room of people. So I'm noticing that there's some dryness in my mouth. I'm feeling nervous. I'm talking to a room of people, potentially going to, judge me, attack me, kick me out, or hopefully not. So that I can notice all of these things, and that is part of being human. That is the great thing about ACT. It recognises that we're all human, and even a psychologist, and like me, has all of this stuff going on inside, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations. But ACT helps you connect to what matters to you, what is important to you, your values in life, and to be able to kind of free yourself a little bit from that mindy stuff, those thoughts, the feelings I'm having now, and still show up here and still talk to you, because this is important to me, it matters to me, and I want to share this. So that is what I learned on that walk that was lodged for 8 years, and then I acted on it. And it really, for me, it's been like a seed that was in the ground and waiting to germinate. And once it's germinated, then that's led to a real burst of energy, of activity. And that's led me to all the things that I'm going to be talking about now. And it's basically just following my heart. That's the simple way. And this is where I live, in Purley on Thames, just the other side of the river. So I have to cycle all the way around to get here. I wish I could just, kayak across or something like that. But yeah, this is where I am now in terms of my context. And I moved there about 8 years ago. At the start, I didn't know anyone there at all. I'd moved from a place where I knew the neighbours either side of me, but that was about it. And I was determined to do something different based on my experiences. I was also just waking up to the mess that the planet is in. Thanks to David Attenborough sharing Blue Planet, seeing all the plastic in the oceans. I was oblivious, and then that was kind of my initial wake up moment. And there were lots of people doing great stuff in the village where I was. There's a lovely community cafe called the Mad Duck Cafe that had just set up. They really wanted to focus on bringing the community back together again. Mandy and Donna, who set that up, they wanted to recreate what it was like when they were younger. People knew each other, people helped out each other. So there was this going on. There's also Pangbourne and Whitchurch Sustainability Group, found out about locally. So it was great to find there were some local people who cared. And previously I'd just been sharing sort of angry messages on Facebook, posts and stuff, and I felt, in me, that didn't do anything, that didn't help me. I actually wanted to do something. And then I found out about an approach called Prosocial, which again, most people have never heard of. One person nodding, yep. And this comes from the work of Elinor Ostrom, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2009. Again, most people have never heard of her. When she won the Nobel Prize, most economists were like, who is this? But what she did, she studied lots of groups all around the world who were managing common pool resources really well, whether that was water, forests, and she was able to identify some general principles that all these people were implementing, but in their very own way, and they were managing these resources very well. So she debunks the tragedy of the commons, which was, you know, from Gerrit Hard in 1968, saying that, you know, people couldn't be trusted to look after land, that we should take it away, we should privatise it, or the state should regulate it. But Elinor debunked all of that, and so many people haven't heard of it, but you have, which is great. And this other person, David Slow Wilson, he's an evolutionary biologist, and he met Lynn Ostrom at a conference, struck it off with her, and then he worked with her for the last 3 years of her life, and he translated her principles to general principles for any group. So for, you know, you could apply to any group you want to have these principles to have a group working well and effectively. And you can find out more, there's a website, Prosocial World, which says more about this. And so these are the 8 core design principles. So number 1, for any group to work effectively, you want to have a shared identity and purpose. You know, that defines who is in the group, who is outside of the group, what matters to you. You can all have individual differences within the group as well. So there will be some things that matter more to one person than another. That's reflected in this as well. But you do have that overall shared purpose that says, you know, I want to be part of this. This is important to all of us. The second one is that you want to make sure when you are in a group that people are happy with the balance of what people are doing. It doesn't have to be equal, but just people are happy with the amount that people are putting in and taking out. You also want to make sure that decision making is inclusive as well. So if you're in the group, you want to have a say in the group, you know, over the decisions, what you're doing. If people have said they're going to do stuff, you want to make sure you can check this and monitor this, not in a, you know, not in a bureaucratic way, but if someone says they're going to do something, you want to know that's going to happen. And with any group, of course, you want to reinforce the helpful things that people are doing. You know, the things that make the group flow really well, but there will also be things within the group, you know, everyone's been in a group where people have been doing things that are really unhelpful for that group. I've certainly had those experiences, and you want to make sure that there is some way to notice that, to point that out. Elinor, in her work studying people around the world, makes a note of the lobster fishermen in Maine, who look quite big and burly. They sometimes have people come in from out of the area to do lobster fishing there, put their pots in, and rather than going up and smashing the pots, what they do is they just tie a ribbon on those pots that aren't from that area. So it's a gentle message to people, and that, you know, that's what you want, is sort of a graduated sanctions rather than going in really severely at the start. And there's always conflict in any group as well. And again, any group you've been in, there will be conflicts and disagreements. So as a group, you want to find ways to be able to decide how you are going to manage those conflicts yourself. And you want to be autonomous as well. You want to be able to make the decisions about your group rather than someone from outside deciding what you have to do as a group. And the last one, which I'm particularly passionate about, is that you want to take all of these principles and then apply them to all of the other groups that you come across. You know, so that you're clear about another group and what their shared interest and purpose is, and you know, maybe there's difference, but there's also overlap that you can work with. You know, you want to allow other groups to be autonomous and not force them into making decisions. And there's also going to be conflict between groups as well. So you want to find ways to manage the conflict between groups. So those are those 8 principles, and as they are principles, they don't look the same in any group. So it's up to that group to decide exactly how you do those. And the other aspect about prosocial, is David is an evolutionary biologist, is thinking about the different levels that you're operating at. Because what might be very good for me and what might benefit me could be terrible for my family. You know, if I'm going out, drinking, having a great time all the time, I don't see my family, it's not going to work. And what might be great for my family might not be very good for my community. You think about mafia gangs and families. You know, what's great for that family is terrible for everyone else. And then what's good for your community isn't necessarily good for the bioregion, which I'm going to talk about later as well. That bigger area we're nested in. And then lastly, what's good for the bioregion isn't necessarily good for the planet. So that is prosocial, and then I thought I would see what I could do locally to see whether that would be helpful in terms of connecting with people. And I decided, inspired by other local groups like Pangbourne and Whitchurch Sustainability Group, they did offer that maybe we could add Purley to their group as well. That would be, Purley, Pangbourne and Whitchurch Sustainability. I knew we needed something separate from where we were. So I just invited people to come and join, to set up a sustainability group. 8 people turned up on a Friday night in the Mad Duck Cafe. And then it was from there trying to work out what our shared interest was and also what our individual interests were. And so we had people who then developed different leads for different activities. And that was 5 years ago. And that's developed from people who didn't know each other at all, coming together around that common purpose, following our passions, and now we've got to the stage where we have 2 allotments in the parish allotments, where we grow as a group, which again is a different behaviour to what a lot of other people were doing on the allotments. A lot of people growing individually, and we harvest that food throughout the year, and then we have a community meal once a year as well. We got a small grant from the Soil Association, £150, and just the requirement was to put on a community meal. And then that became a prosocial project of combining everyone's abilities, what people already had. Stuart and Janet had these wonderful silver heated food holders that they'd had for their silver wedding anniversary and hadn't used since. So we got those out of the loft. There are people who could cook, and we did this our first year at the allotments. We had about 60 people turn up. There was one man who turned up, and he'd been sitting in this spot where we had this meal, and he said he'd been sat there for 20 years thinking that this would be a great place to have a gathering, get people together. And we did that. We put up a marquee, and we had all these people come along, people just opposites who'd moved 10 years to the village, didn't know anyone apart from their neighbours. Just a really lovely event. Unfortunately, we did have some conflict as well, because doing it in an allotment space, people are very worried about their allotments and all these strange people coming in as well. So we did have someone shouting at us. They were very angry with us. So we had to find ways to navigate that. And in the end, we've changed it. We now do it at the village hall on the grass on the side with a horticultural society. So again, developing a new relationship. So we had to adapt, and we've still had about 60 people coming each time. And again, just people getting to know each other, and lots of lovely initiatives that have come out of that. Linking the local primary school, the church, and what we do as well. And we also got a repair cafe, which is started in the Mad Duck as well, which lots of people do repair cafes, but that has been a really wonderful experience. A lot of the volunteers are people who are retired, got great skills, but didn't have anywhere to apply it anymore. And you just see, the energy on people's faces, being able to really have a purpose, connecting with people. This has been a really wonderful event. so that's where I started with in Purley. That was my first sort of wanting to do something, and everyone must be familiar with Mapledurham Lock. Yeah, so we just, that direction, not far across. You can see Hardwick and where it starts from the tree line up in the top left as well. And for me, when I first moved to Purley, would go down to the lock. There was a cafe there that was open. It wasn't the most amazing cafe, but it was a great place to go, to get food, to get ice creams. I used to take my children there. And living in Purley, I heard from everyone, how people used to love doing that. It was a really important part of what they did, taking their children, taking their grandchildren. And people also talked about what the lock used to be like now, and how it used to be loved and cared for, and not feeling that this is the case now. And this is what the cafe looks like now. I don't know if people have been along and seen it. Yeah. So the gates have been locked for years. It must have been about 4 years. Yeah, the blackberries are having a great time and growing wildly. You can see on the left-hand side, there's still the River Thames artwork on the side there, but it's all locked up and the roof is collapsing.
On the Purley side?
On the Purley side, yeah. And it's also interesting how it's Mapledurham Lock, but it's on Purley because of the quirk of that. And it's also a unique place as well, as you know. It's the only place that has the lock, the weir, and the mill. That's the only place on the Thames that has all of those three. Still there anyway. So that started me dreaming as well, and wondering what could be made of this space, and again wanting to bring people together, that prosocial aspect. And I've come to understand the importance of art and artists. And there is a wonderful artist in Purley, Kate Lockhart, who had done a wonderful arts fair a couple of years before. And so I talked to her about this idea, and she came down and met there with me, and I shared a vision really about how this could be a place that could bring all of the existing groups in Purley and across the river as well, trying to link across to see what would come from linking people together, all these different groups. And Kate and her 17-year-old daughter at the time created some wonderful slides. So these are the slides that Kate and her daughter did. And so she just came up with this as the lock, where community, conservation and creativity meet. And then she's just done some free sketches about what this place could be like. So at the back there's like a visitor centre. You could have displays or information about the River Thames, the local area. There are seats for people, and there would be plants, there would be herbs growing food. It's a bit smaller detail, so I'm not sure what everyone could see from the back. But also, her daughter has added things that were important to her. So she's added a snack shack. That was really important from the shed. In this space over here, possibly you could have a very small sort of outdoors stage, for local productions. In Purley, there are Purley Players, a local dramatic group. It would be a great place to perform down there. Outdoor activities for children, all of the some vegetables and herb growing here as well, places for people to sit, maybe some information out the front about the area. For you think about all the people who walk the Thames path, and most people don't really know what they're walking past. So there's so many opportunities for people.
Richard, who owns it now then?
The Environment Agency. Yeah. But in Purley, there's a group called Project Purley, who have been working on bringing together all the old stories, old images about the past. They know about this, and they're excited to get involved. this would be great, to share this information. We've got young one here, and it would be great for people living in Purley to know about the history more of where they are, everything that's come before them. You can involve Reading University, Museum of English Rural Life. So many different groups could combine. That's what I'm hoping for. And then there's also the possibility to help people come together around the presence. As I said, I didn't really appreciate where I was. All the wildlife, the other beings around me. So this would be an opportunity for people locally to really appreciate. Kingfishers, otters, all of the fish in the river that we don't see, the trees around us, the oaks, the beech trees. There's so much to appreciate. And again, there's all these groups, who hopefully could come together around this. There's bee bouts, the Women's Institute as well in Purley, so many places, nature nurture. And also importantly, I'd love this to be a space where people can think about the future as well. What future do we want to leave to future generations? And to have everyone to have a say in this. There's so many opportunities for education in this space to do outdoors education. There is really nothing like this around in Purley. Opportunities for children doing homeschooling. I've talked to the local scout group about this. They love the idea, can think of all the opportunities for the scouts, connecting with the river. Volunteers, Duke of Edinburgh, so many people. And just having, drop-in activities for people and family sessions as well. And just in this area, there's so many creative people. What would happen if you were bringing all the creative people together? People who had different skills in arts, crafts. You could have exhibitions here. So many options. Yeah. And really, at the heart of it is community, bringing people together, and you need a space to celebrate community. You've got to commune to have community. Yeah, and all the opportunities for well-being as well. You could have knitting groups, walking groups meeting here. There's a local Tai Chi group in Purley that just does it inside, but if there's a space to do outside Tai Chi as well, yoga, so many opportunities. Yeah, and because we just know how social well-being is so important. Yeah, so these are the slides that Kate and her daughter have done, and then we're just going around and sharing the slides with people, wanting people to imagine what this space could be like. Because this isn't our design, it's an opportunity for everyone to design it together. So we've shared it with local schools, local groups, members of the parish council, lots of different people. And then Sarah said, who owns the land? The Environment Agency owns the land. And as far as we've got so far, is that we have it's taken about a year to find the right person at the Environment Agency who could do something about this. But we've got to the stage where there's a group of 5 of us. We met with the Environment Agency down there. They opened up the gates, let us go in and have a look. And they're willing for us to set up a community interest group to be able to negotiate a lease around it. So we've still got a long way to go, but the Environment Agency are open to us creating a space. They hope there might be a template for other people. They have got lots of other spaces like this as well, and at the moment it's unused. So that is Mapledurham Lock, and would love anyone who is interested. It's an opportunity to connect with so many groups around and try and help regenerate this area and make it a thriving connecting place for people, so that we can all feel connected and less isolated. And then, just to finish off, I just wanted to say how I'm thinking about this at that level, and I'm also thinking about a bigger level as well. I came across something called bioregioning. Most people have never heard of bioregioning. Has anyone heard of bioregioning? Yes, yeah. So bioregioning is really what the people who have been looking after areas really well for like thousands of years, indigenous people, they've just been doing this naturally. They know their places, where the water is, where all the plants are, where all the materials are that they need to be able to build, where all their food is. So that they know their places intimately, and this knowledge is shared through generations. And it's becoming clear now that areas like the Amazon rainforest, although they are drastically being destroyed now, they weren't just natural. They were areas that people managed for thousands of years. That they were giant food forests. So bioregioning goes back to indigenous roots, but there are modern ways now where this is a way of helping people to connect with getting to know their places again, and to understand all of the relationships in those places. And so for me, living here in the Thames in Purley, then I've come to feel that the Thames is the bioregional I feel at home in. This is my place that I feel, and for me it's starting this journey and seeing who else is interested in exploring this as well. And I'm part of a group called the Design School for Regenerating Earth, which again most people will not have heard of as well. People all around the world who are, just one group. There are many groups who are interested in exploring bioregioning. It's really, expanding and increasing at the moment. But our group's particular kind of inspiration goes back to Dunella Meadows, and again, probably most people have never heard of Dunella Meadows, but some people have, I'm sure. Dunella Meadows was at MIT in the States, and she's kind of thought as the modern sort of mother of systems thinking. And in the 80s, she spent about 10 years with the greatest minds at that time. And after those 10 years, thinking about the predicament of the planet, they came up with that actually the best thing you could do to help was to create bioregional learning centres all across the world, a planetary network. So these are spaces where people really get to understand their place, to understand all of the information that is there, and to be able to make decisions about the place that you live in, the people who know those areas best, with the aim of regenerating those places for the future. There's more information you can find on the links about Dunella. Kate Rayworth did a great interview talking about her. And for those people who have no idea what a bioregion is, a bioregion invites us to inhabit a place in a way that is full of relationships. And it's seeing where the natural boundaries of our bioregion are, so not the artificial ones, the maps, just being here. I'm in a different county to over the other side of the river. That is quite an artificial distinction. Going back to Saxon sort of carving up, whereas actually I'm still in the same bioregion. It's still, it's the Thames, although it's darker over this side and it's less developed. It's still the same water, the same trees. The chalk is here as well. And of course, as most people know, all of the systems are connected. The water, the health of our water is connected to the health of us. It's not separate transport is connected, education is connected, everything is connected. Bioregioning aims to bring this all together. And there's also stories that are a key part of this as well, that it is about relearning, recreating the story. Those groups who would share information about those regions, Bioregioning looks to reshare those stories, relearn those stories, going through all the different layers, starting with the geology. As I said, I didn't know about the Chilterns, meaning chalk. So it's starting from that area, because you then notice that there are patterns that persist. Starting with the geology, then that feeds through to the hydrology, the water. That feeds through to the soil types that you have, to the types of food you can grow, to agriculture, to culture, everything. And if it wasn't for the River Thames, we wouldn't be living here. If the River Thames hadn't been able to carve its way through the Goring Gap, through the chalk, it would have been in a different place. Originally, it used to flow through St Albans, whereas the route has changed. So it gives you a greater appreciation of place. And ultimately, it is about bringing vitality to these connections to help regeneration and help us to take action together for a climate resilient and biodiverse future. So for me, how I see this helps, this might be a bit small for people, but we care about where we live. I care about where I live, and this is a way to help reconnect people with where you live. To share those stories, to share that love. And for me, I feel there is a sense of joy with this as well. There is so much, to feel frightened about, to feel angry about, to feel upset about. I've tried that approach. It didn't work very well for me. I find it tends to put a lot of people off. Whereas actually connecting with joy and love about where you live. I didn't know there were chalk streams here until a few years ago. So connecting with the pain. And there is obviously the pain of the pain for how it is now, but actually that joy and how important chalk streams are. Going back to where I grew up in Wendover, there was a canal that I used to go in with the scouts. We would build rafts out of big plastic drums and logs, and they would last a few seconds until the rafts just completely disintegrated. But going back there now, with these eyes, I can see that canal is fed by a chalk stream, which I didn't know. That's why the canal is very clear there. There's watercress growing. So this has given me a new appreciation, a new love for where I am now, but also a love, a new love for where I grew up. And I'd love to get people to gather, to be in person, to really sort of appreciate this. Bioregional Thames at the moment is a bit too much online, but we have people over large distances. We have people up at the headwaters of the Thames, up in Oxford. We have people locally. We have people in London, like Sarah, and we also have people across the North Sea, in the Netherlands as well, because you can see it at one level bigger as well. So the River Thames is a North Sea river. It's flowing into the North Sea. And if you look at all the other rivers, in Europe as well, all flowing into the North Sea. So, yeah, you can go at any level you like. It's all nested. But I would love to, do some kind of gathering to help people really appreciate the Thames. There's the Earth Trust just near Benson. I wonder whether it's possible to, kayak as a group of people down the Thames. I just really appreciate, how great it is, what you do see when you're on the water, and maybe finishing up here. And bioregioning is about celebrating the work that people are already doing. It's not about doing new stuff. It's forming the connections, and seeing what happens when you bring those connections together. So this is a photo that I took on the daily walk near me the morning after the wolf moon in January. And I just want to say I'm grateful for you all listening to me at the end of probably a long day for a lot of people. And again, just to say that I'm really grateful for everything that everyone does already. And my dreams are more about what can happen when you bring people together who are doing really great work. All kinds of new things, all kinds of possibilities can happen. So, thank you for listening to me. And there's some contact details for anyone who would like them for Sustainability Group, for the Lock, and for Bioregional Thames. Yes, Sarah.
Is it time to ask questions?
Yeah, please do.
I find what you're doing extremely inspirational. It's wonderful, absolutely fantastic. I've been doing something similar where I live in South London. It's called Environmental Action, Coney Hall. And I've done all this thing. I didn't know about the movement with the circles. I don't know anything about that, but naturally it's sort of happened. Without going into lots of details about what we've achieved, the hardest thing I found is sustaining it, is keeping people interested. So what had started off with something where lots of people were involved and everybody was interested, and we built a nature trail, we've got butterfly banks and blah blah blah. All of a sudden I don't get the response anymore. It's so hard to keep. I know everyone's working. What could you suggest to sort of keep that momentum going? Is there anything? I hear what you're doing. I'm oh my God.
It is hard, and I guess you've got to go with people's capacities and learn from other people as well. Thinking of Nature Nurture as an example here in Reading, what they have found works is just to put on a fun day, get people there for one day. It's very low commitment for people. People often worry, that they can't commit to an extended period of time, or their attention is drawn by other things. So whatever you can to make it as easy as people to take part, and fun and creative.
Was it you that came up with the idea of having something that said what does, in my case, Coney Hall, what does Coney Hall mean to you?
It wasn't me. Was that about Coley Park?
No.
No.
It's just somebody said that, and I thought that sounded maybe quite a good thing. Getting people in, what does it mean to you?
Yes, yeah. Anyone here have any other ideas of what you found helpful to kind of keep people? Yes.
A suggestion. Maybe but like their passion. Like if they have any particular passion, try to get them in some way through their interest and passion into how they can work well with project or implementing some project, because if they are passionate and they're interested, they might want to be more part of it, maybe.
To sort of call on their skills, like you've done with an artist. Or
It's like in a company. If you're working in a company and you have different people working in the company for the same purpose, but you have one that is very good or interested in a particular thing, like in photography. Perfect. Why don't you work on this particular project? You're still part of the bigger thing, but there will be maybe more key. I don't know.
Yes, please.
I'm also from South London.
Yeah, sorry about that. South London.
No. What happened? Maybe I missed it, but what happened to the cafe when it went derelict? Do you know the reasons why it didn't work, or why it failed to?
It's still a bit confusing. Some people say about how the Environment Agency weren't happy about selling food.
Right.
I'm not sure really. It's
But it could be quite important to understand those reasons so that
yes.
they don't happen again.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess it's. I'm also. I don't want to do it so that it's like a money-making thing. I want it to be like a community space that people can benefit from. That is a challenge as well. I don't know how much the Environment Agency are going to come back with, how much of a lease they're going to want, I know they've got a £1.5 million deficit that they're trying to make back. So there's all of these things as well.
They might sell it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Welcome to the dark side. Thank you for coming over. This is something I've thought about for a long time, but what sort of pressure do you think might be needed to put on the Environment Agency and Mapledurham Estate to connect the two footpath?
Yes.
If there was something to really bring both sides of the river together
Yeah.
in connectivity,
Yeah.
it's that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I did meet with someone from National Landscapes, Ruth Staples Rolfe. It was just on a call with Thames 21, who were doing great work and sharing these slides, and then they got her to come out and have a conversation. And so she is wondering about that as well, because there is a lack of connectivity. And so many people have said, you know, people who love walking, that'd be so great. And she, you know, she also came out and she saw the state of the Thames path where we live now. It is, you know, it's terrible. You can't walk through. You have to, you know, wade through mud. Yeah, so maybe this might, you know, connect with all of that as well. Because we need to be able to walk our landscape to be able to connect with our landscape.
Yeah, you can't say
And
you
it's-
want people to get out and about, and
No.
just the circular route would make it would change so much.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, no, many years are open, so you can cross at Caversham, you can cross at Daysmith, you can cross. Yeah, and they might think of reasons, but it is done.
It's done in Greenwich. You can walk across lots in Greenwich.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I agree. I would love that. Yeah, I have met someone from Mapledurham Estate about something else, but it's trying to connect all those, and I guess it's understanding that shared purpose as well, and trying to link somehow so that people can see the value of that and overcome any obstacles to it. Yeah.
In terms of doing it up too, have you thought, sort of going back to your thing about companies? Companies do so many charity days, don't they? And then you can use their skills and
Yes.
come on for a whole day.
Yeah.
Have you used that?
I have thought of that, of asking companies.
Yeah.
I can imagine that there's, you know, I'd love to do it as local as possible. So it is, you know, local companies, local groups helping. You know, if we get that far. Yeah, absolutely. And just if you're there for a day as well, even the local scout group, you know, would love to come and help and clear this land. One of our allotments was very overgrown. It was too much for us to do as a group, so we just invited the local explorers down for an evening, and they soon cleared that, and they absolutely loved it. They were covered in soil. They want to come back and help. So any opportunity, you know, to connect, to form another relationship with a group is what I'm really passionate about.
Is there a car park down there? Can you drive down there?
You can drive down there. It is a private road now. The local farmer bought the road about 12 years ago. But as a lease for the site, you do have access along this road. You wouldn't be able to park down there. That is the only thing. You can park up the top.
How many cars can park at the top?
Usually quite a lot.
As well as if you did have a
Yeah.
community group there,
Yes.
the babies, can you?
Yeah. There's plenty of space. People park there for the local primary school, for lots of other activities. So there is space around, but ideally it would be people coming from very locally, so wouldn't want to have loads of cars, and people using other means of transport together. Yes.
Probably worth registering it as an asset of community value in the in the local plan there, and they'd be better to say it without talking to you first.
Yes. Yeah.
And then potentially there's ways to raise money to buy that at that point, as well as quite a lot of like funding, like community ownership fund and things like that. I know it's shut down now, but they're restarting it again. That's the sort of thing that would support, and Plunkett Foundation, and they support a lot of those type of community buyouts of local assets.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I think to see in that.
Yeah. That's really helpful.
My only thought from your presentation is that you're trying to do a number of things. And so my worries for that is that because you're doing a number of things, the communication could be lost in explaining what it is.
Yes.
And so to have a hierarchy of messaging about what you're trying to achieve will be critical.
Yes.
Because people could just say, oh, it's the cafe, but obviously you're much more than a cafe.
Yeah.
And so to have the clarity of communication would actually take quite a bit of work
Yes.
so that when you launch, people get you. Because actually I've seen quite a few organisations fail because they've not had clarity on what they are and the goal of what they are.
Yes.
So actually to have the clarity of communication of your goals in a hierarchical form would be really critical to its success.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That is crucial. And what we want to do as well, Kate, who has helped with the slides, is willing to do some community engagement events so that we can meet with different groups, and we are creating that together so that people have that shared understanding from doing it together, rather than us coming and saying, this is what it is. These are just ideas for people. We want people to be part of that creative process, so that they feel a part of it, and they are clear about it, and can feel it's not just a cafe. Yeah. It is a space to help people.
The goal needs to be very, very, very clear to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It wasn't to be a cafe, and it was, because of its location and everything. I used to row down there in the summer from it.
Yeah.
And it's a great spot to do something. I think it's brilliant. I think Purley has quite a strong community, doesn't it? So I imagine that there'd be a real rallying round if people part with something that they really want.
Yes.
And I imagine because you've got Mad Duck already, haven't you? Ticks a lot of boxes, so it'd be kind of what's different.
Yeah.
Not already done Mad Duck.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And with
great idea to keep that space.
And also with the Mad Duck, I'm very sensitive with them as well as the cafe, and again it goes back to that importance of relationships, of not wanting to cause conflict. So right at the start, they were the first people I went and shared these slides with, and they were on board with that, and they could see that it would be different, that we wouldn't be a cafe like they are. It's more of a space to help people reconnect with the place, reconnect with the Thames, reconnect with one another, rather than serving hot food, which is what they're doing. They're quite different. Any other comments? Yeah.
Well, it just sounds like a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Really good idea.
So this is just a small memory really, but along with the cafe there was a plant nursery there as well, wasn't it? And the flowers were, the lock keepers often have incredible gardens. The lock garden there was beautiful, and then you could buy the flowers in the shop as well. And just sort of for anyone who's been in Purley long enough, they'll remember that.
Yes.
And that's sort of part of the allotments and
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
At some point we have to have a sort of larger community meeting kind of consultation to get people's ideas and get
Yes. Yeah.
kind of kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been doing smaller things so far and testing it out, but yeah, the parish council are keen, for us to do a presentation there, and just invite people and invite people to be part of it. And
You've got support from members.
yeah, exactly. And I guess that is the heart of it as well, isn't it? It's our children really. And for me as well, I hope it will bring different generations together as well. You know, there is a bit of a divide, the older and the younger, and people not knowing each other really. People feeling older people feeling threatened by younger people, and younger people annoyed by older people having a go at them as well. So, if this is an opportunity to bring people together to get to know each other, for people to share skills, knowledge, stories, their love of place, then that's what I really hope for as well.
I just want to say thank you for situating the project in the kind of wider philosophy of bioregioning and all of that, because that sort of gives it a much more, it gives it a wider appeal in some ways than just a project. It's really quite exciting, so thank you very much for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much everyone, really appreciate it.